Why is it that in an era of 4K realistic graphics, we are all running back to this? There's something about the jagged edges, the warping textures, and that CRT static that feels unsettling, unfinished, and that is exactly why it's scary. Back in the late 90s, developers used fog and fixed camera angles to hide the fact that the console couldn't render the whole world. But accidentally, they created the perfect fear of unknown. You aren't fighting just the monsters, you are fighting the controls, you feel helpless, and that is the core of the true survival horror. If you missed that era, you don't need a time machine. The indie scene is keeping it alive. Games like Crow Country capture that specific Final Fantasy VII meets Resident Evil look. Real horror isn't about jump scares, it's about atmosphere, and nothing beats the atmosphere of old games. I recently wanted to play a horror game that captured that eerie atmosphere with its gameplay and visuals. And Crow Country was there for me to scratch that itch. Crow Country takes place in the year 1990. The story follows a young woman named Mara Forrest. She is a special agent with a mysterious goal. She travels to an abandoned theme park in rural Georgia called Crow Country. The park was owned by a man named Edward Crow, but he shut it down 2 years ago and vanished. Mara arrives at the park to find Edward and get answers. However, the park isn't empty. It is filled with puzzles, strange machinery, and grotesque monsters roaming the attractions. As Mara explores, she uncovers notes and logs left by the staff. These clues reveal that Edward Crow wasn't just running a theme park, he was hiding a dark and dangerous secret beneath the ground. But why am I talking about Crow Country, even though I showed clips from Forbidden Siren first? This video is indeed about Forbidden Siren, and why, even though many talks about its story being incredible, it was such a letdown for me. But first, let's look at Crow Country and its story so we will have something to compare it to. The game takes place in 1990. We play as Mara Forrest. She claims to be a special agent looking for Edward Crow, the owner of the abandoned Crow Country theme park. The park shut down 2 years ago after a teenage girl named Elaine Marshall was mysteriously injured. As Mara explores, she meets other survivors and uncovers the truth. Edward Crow and his partner were running an operation underground. They found roots that grew pure gold, but these weren't just roots. They were actually antenna for a gateway device. This gateway was allowing creatures called ghasts to enter our world. Edward's greed caused a disaster. By harvesting the gold, he damaged the antennas. This caused the ghasts to arrive mutated and carrying a disease. We learned that these ghasts are actually humans from 22nd century. They were trying to travel back in time because the Earth in the future is destroyed. The biggest twist in the game is when Mara finally finds Edward Crow underground. He's deformed and infected. Here, Mara reveals her secret. She's not a special agent. She forged her papers. Mara is actually Elaine Marshall, the girl who was injured 2 years ago. She was infected by a ghast. She didn't come for revenge. She came to tell Edward that she is dying and the doctors can't help her. But Edward reveals he has created a cure. He gives Mara 5 vials to save herself and the other survivors. Since there's 6 of them alive and there's only 5 vials, he jumps into the gateway pool to see the future, but he turns into a massive monster. Mara is forced to kill him. She escapes with the survivors in the final scene. They sit by a fire 4 miles away, hoping for a future. Crow Country is a good enough game. Its story is basic and impressive enough. Puzzles are fun and challenging. Encounters are nice change of pace. Storytelling is good. You understand and see the game's story unravel as you play. No questions are left unanswered. No room for confusion is left. You enjoy and understand as you play from the beginning all the way to the end. Because of this, you live satisfied with your time. But not all games are like this, especially when the genre is horror. Now let's take a look at one of those games that's not a good example like Crow Country when it comes to storytelling. There's a massive lie in the gaming industry. It goes like this. If you don't understand the story, it's because the story is too deep for you. We treat confusion as a sign of quality. We treat bad communication as mystery. I want to talk about Forbidden Siren. It is often called a masterpiece of horror story, but if you look at it rationally without the nostalgia googles, it is actually a masterclass in cheap storytelling. It is a game that tricks you into doing the writer's job for them. Let's look at the substance of this game, which is story. There's a concept I like to call the shotgun theory of writing. Imagine if I wrote a 1,000-page book filled with random dates, spooky names, religious references, and incoherent rambling. Statistically speaking, about 200 of those pages will accidentally be interesting. Does that make me a genius writer? No. It makes me a person who threw trash at a wall to see what stuck. Forbidden Siren does exactly this. It floods you with non-linear timelines, dozens of characters, and obscure folklore. It is not a carefully crafted puzzle. It's a data dump, and because the human brain hates chaos, we, the player, connects the dots. We fix them, writer's mess in our own head, and then give them the credit for it. There's a fancy technical term for this mess. It's called Transmedia storytelling. The definition is simple. The story isn't completely contained within the gameplay. Playing the game isn't enough. You have to piece the plot together from fragmented archives. But Forbidden Siren traps its entire narrative inside one specific, nightmarish menu, the Link Navigator. This giant, confusing flowchart is the only way to see the truth. You have to unlock obscure nodes for one character just to see a 5-second cutscene for another character 3 days later. I call this Schrödinger's story. The story is inside a sealed box, but opening it is impossible. But people swear inside the box, story is incredible. But since opening the box is impossible, until you open the box there is no story. The Link Navigator is that sealed box. While you are actually playing the level, the story is in a state of superposition. It might be deep or it might be a total nonsense. You don't know because the game doesn't tell you. You are just running in the dark. It is only when you force your way through this flowchart, unlocking nodes in a non-linear mass, when you finally open the box, that the story forces itself into existence. But that is not storytelling. That is a chore. If the narrative doesn't flow naturally through the gameplay, it is effectively doesn't exist. Hiding your plot inside a spreadsheet isn't complex. It's just a cheap way to hide the fact that the actual game fails to communicate with the player. why do people like this or defend this? Why is this game so rated highly when it comes to story? It's called the IKEA Effect. Psychology tells us that we value things more if we suffer to build them. When you spend 40 hours fighting this game's terrible controls and impossible timeline to find a crumb of story, your brain tricks you. You tell yourself, I worked so hard for this, so it must be a masterpiece. I'm so smart for figuring this out. It is an ego trap. Admitting the storytelling is bad would mean admitting you wasted your time. So we pretend the emperor is wearing beautiful clothes when actually he is naked. Don't get me wrong, I love mystery, I love dark, gothic vibes, I love the vibe of this game, I love the faces and everything it goes for when it comes to visuals. But George Orwell once said, good prose is like a window pane. It should be clear, it should let you see the truth. When a developer smears mud on the window and tells you it's artistic, don't believe them, it's just dirty. We need to stop praising writers for being lazy. We need to stop mistaking incomprehensible for deep. I want games that respect my time and my intelligence. I don't want a puzzle box that's empty inside. But that's just my rational take. Tell me in the comments, am I missing the art, or are you also tired of doing the writer's homework?